Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Azure Cloud Streak 4.0. My name is Sabin Nidur, and I'll be the moderator for today's event. So, guys, if you can remember last time on Azure Cloud Streak 3.0, we had a really interesting discussion about the basics of Kubernetes. We had a really great discussion. The participation from the audience was really great. They asked a lot of questions, and it was a really awesome session. So to trying to top that off, we are back again to you. We have come back again to you guys with really two awesome topics and two great in-depth speeches about them. So first off, we have Mr. Calvin Hindle, who is a Microsoft MVP in AI and also the director at innovation. Ready to talk to you guys about building an AI application, AI infused application on Azure Cognitive Services. And before I hand over the screen to Mr. Hindle, I would like to tell you guys that to drop any questions, don't be shy, put them on the Q&A panel, or you can send them to me and ask them from Mr. Hindle when the opportunity presents itself. And now, without any further ado, the screen is yours, sir.
Right. So good evening to everyone who is connected today. So we'll be talking about how we can create AI-infused application with some of the Microsoft AI services which we have out there. So I think an introduction is given about myself, so I'm not going to spend time on that. So we'll be covering on why and when we can use AI services when we want to build applications. We'll talk about what are the AI services which are available from Microsoft, and we'll be talking about some of the example use cases and go through some technical demos and see how easily you can build applications which are infused with some AI capabilities. Now, most of the time I have seen among students and undergraduates and freshers that when we are building these kind of AI applications, we always use the word AI as a marketing jargon to kind of differentiate our product from another product, and we say it's AI, AI enable this, AI enable that. But the most important thing is to understand before you use certain AI capabilities to develop applications, what type of problems are you going to solve, whether it really needs AI. Because sometimes you can actually do, a traditional application development approach without any AI features and have a much bigger impact in that use case. So any of you AI developers, any data scientists, or anyone who is interested in AI, the most important thing is to understand what problems are you going to solve and whether that's going to be impactful, whether that's going to have any impact in a larger scale. That's the first thing. So rather than just going with AI, with the AI first approach, it's always good to understand what the problem is and whether AI can have a significant impact on it. So that's the most important thing that I want to highlight today. Then when we look at the Microsoft AI services, there are many services out there. And within this past couple of months and years, there was quite a lot of reshuffle of the services as well. So I will get into some of these areas and try to talk about much as possible within this 45 minutes or hour. So if you look at the Microsoft Cognitive Services, these are actually pre-trained modules in different cognitive areas. So as you know, cognitive means similarly like a human being. What we can see here, language, speech, and even certain decision-making capabilities as well. So these are kind of, I would say, industry agnostic models that can be used to any industry, which are pre-trained, and we don't need to spend time on, training these models by getting data, historical data, doing feature engineering, and all of these really time-consuming tasks that we need to do. in order to build an AI model. So what Microsoft has done is they have done all the hard work and the training, and some of these models are running on deep learning neural network kind of architecture when it comes to, for example, the computer vision side and the speech and the language understanding capabilities. So these are all pre-trained models that we can simply use the SDK in different languages. It has SDKs for Python, C#, and other popular languages, where we can simply use the SDK and call the service through an API by using the REST endpoint and the token. And I'll show you how easy it is to enable some of these features. And then when it comes to Microsoft ML services, this is mostly towards if you want to develop a custom ML model. Now, for example, if you're working, let's say if you're working in a bank, maybe you want to do a model that you want to predict risk of giving loans, right? So then you need to do a lot of data engineering as well. I mean, you need to build the model on your own, right? So here, in order to build the model, I mean, these services have made the life more easy as well for data scientists and data engineering, where you have different kind of services where, previously you might need to write your models and do the feature extraction, processing all maybe on notebooks on Python or something like that. But here they have tools where, if you don't have much knowledge on, doing your own code up to that technical skill, but if you have some kind of data science, data engineering knowledge, by configuring level, by using which we call low code, no code tools, you can quickly, get your models up and running. And they also provide these auto ML capabilities where you don't need to spend maybe hours and days of figuring out what's the best model or the algorithm that you need to use. So with auto ML, it kind of goes through many iterations and provides you the best model. It also has other capabilities like, ML ops, where ML ops kind of service where you can look at your entire pipeline, right? From doing the feature engineering to deploying the model to doing iterative training and all of that. So Microsoft ML Services has many kind of sub features under it, where when you need to kind of develop your own model with your own localized data, it has the tools and capabilities to make your life easy in order to develop a model quickly. Cognitive services is already pre-trained models. And then also there's a couple of other features, for example, like under Power Automate. So Power Automate is actually the Microsoft, I would say the RPA product of Microsoft, or the hyper automation product of Microsoft, where you want to do kind of, repetitive, where you want to do or build bots and solutions to handle repetitive tasks. So there are AI capabilities like for OCR document extraction, classification and all of this. So those AI capabilities are bundled with the Power Automate platform, and it helps to create this, smart automation kind of solutions along with these capabilities. And there are other features like Language Studio and OpenAI. So, I mean, previously Microsoft had, language understanding services as separate API services, but now they have consolidated everything under Language Understanding Studio, where you have features like sentiment analysis, entity extraction, translation, and various other features under one kind of portal. And it also has kind of configuration level capabilities where it minimizes the time to write code actually. For example, like, Q&A maker and language understanding services. it also has the capability of developing your own custom language model. And then OpenAI services is not another service. Some of you might have known that recently, Microsoft used a service under OpenAI, which is called Codex, to develop their Copilot, platform along with Git, right, to help what we call is AI paired programming. So we'll talk about a bit about that as well. So first, we'll try to go into quickly of each of these areas, and I will try to talk. I mean, there's a vast area, but I'll try to cover as much as possible to make you understand what areas that you can use and what kind of solutions you can build. So let's straight away go to the language understanding capabilities. I will straight away go to the Microsoft Cognitive website. It will make life easy for us to understand these capabilities. Can someone confirm whether my browser is visible?
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Right. So if you just search Microsoft Cognitive Services on Google, it will take you to this site, and you can see under Cognitive Services, there are quite a lot of areas here. So as I mentioned, let's get into the language understanding services. So under language understanding services, there are a couple of sub-services here, like entity recognition, sentiment analysis, question and answering, conversation, and all of this. And as I mentioned, if you go to one of these individual services, you can see actually it redirects to the language understanding studio. Now, as I mentioned previously, we had those services under different kind of APIs, but now they have consolidate all of this into one portal, a portal or a studio, so that all the language understanding capabilities can be done here. Now we'll get into each of these areas. So now, for example, entity extraction is one area. What we mean by entity extraction now, the best use case I can take for this is if you're developing like a conversational digital assistant or a chatbot. Let's say that we are developing a bot to order pizza. Now, as you know, the customers or the users can request to order a pizza in different ways, right? I can say I want to order a pepperoni pizza, and it needs to be delivered to, let's say, Colombo 5 or something like that. And maybe another person can say I want to get a pizza delivered, or I want to get a pepperoni pizza or a tandoori chicken pizza delivered to another location. Likewise, so different variations of ways that the customers can answer. We normally call them utterances, right? Those are different utterances. And then we have any. So in the pizza ordering situation, the entity is ordering a pizza, right? So you have different utterances where customers can ask questions, and you have the entity, which is eventually to order a pizza. Then what we mean by entity, entity extraction. Sorry, I miscommunicated something. So the pizza ordering part is called the intent, and what we mean by entity is actually a domain specific thing. So for example, when the customer is saying that he wants to order a pizza, that type of pizza can be an entity, and the delivery location can be an entity. So these are those main phrases are which we call the main entities. As you can see here, it says dates, personal identification, domain specific, and so on. We can define them as well. And then when it comes to sentiment analysis, it's about the customer's perception. Now, for example, if you look at these stuff, these days the government has been, if you go to social media, you can see so many ways that people are scolding the government, right? And if I take all of those comments probably and extract them and do some processing, maybe from Python, and then use this kind of sentiment analysis service, it will show you most of the things are negative. So we use this quite a lot to understand, customers' perspectives in digital media. Like, for example, if you go to organization, there can be positive comments, there can be negative comments. Some customers may be praising about the service, some customers might be frustrated about the service, and some customers might be neutral. So in order to understand what is this perception of about your brand or service in digital channels, we use sentiment analysis. And then there are other services like, language translation and so on. So now, with the given interest of time, I will show you how easy it is to kind of, I will show you a use case, how easy it is to use the services, right? So if you have Azure portal access, you can simply go and create a language understanding service. Now I already created this. So once you create this, under language understanding services, you actually get all of the language understanding capabilities, right? So under one service, you get all of this sentiment analysis. But when you're calling it through your code, you have to differentiate what exactly you're calling. So what you need to do is once you create this service, once you create your resource groups and assign it to that and so on, the location, region, and so on, you go to keys and endpoints, and here is the place that you can see where your service is deployed. And most of the time, it's recommended to use the closest data centers like Southeast Asia, so that you'll have less less slowness basically. And the endpoints are given here, and these are actually your keys that you need to use, right? So I will show you a small code that I had deployed on Python using the Python SDK. Right, let me just share you this. Right, let me get into some of those use cases. Okay, right. So the first one, we'll just open this up a bit. Right. So as you can see, the code that I copied from the portal, this is where you need to add the code and the endpoint here. Actually, this sample code is up there on the Microsoft sites as well. This is not something that I did on my own, but in order to show you how easy it is to do this, I use the same example, right? And the next thing that you need to do is kind of import these libraries because you're using Python. So if you actually go to this sample examples, let's see, for example, like sentiment analysis, the entire documentation is there, right, and how to use it. And if you go to quick starter, they will show if you want to do it on Python, JavaScript, or C#. And this you need to install the library, right? Because without installing the Python library, you can't do it. So I actually did that previously, but if you want to do it again, you can do that as well. For example, if you do that, you will see that most of my libraries are already installed. Then, as I mentioned, you need to import these, right? These are the other kind of critical imports that you need to do. And the other thing is actually getting the key and the endpoints. And this is where actually I will kind of type my content that I need to kind of understand whether it's negative, positive. So let's just run this and see how the results we get here, right? So in this, there are actually two sentences here. In the first sentence, what we have done is, you can see the entire sentence as I had the best day of my life. I wish you were there with me. So it has broken it down to two. As you can see, I had the best day of my life. It uses scores, right? Because I had defined, as you can see, the response confidence scores dot positive. So I want to get the positive, neutral, and negative. As you can see, 0.99. is about positivity, because as you can read it as a human being, you can understand that this is positive. But as you can see how easy it is to pass content or a sentence and get back the result of the sentiment analysis. And we have not developed any model on our own. We're just using the pre-trained models. So this is why it's so easy to use cognitive services in your application. Specifically, let's say if you're developing a mobile app or a customer service solution, and you want to understand the customer's emails and the customer's tweets, or maybe the customer's comments on social media. If you want to develop that kind of application, you can use this, right? And with the endpoint and with a few lines of code, you can do this. But if you're developing another application, let's say a mobile app or the other kind of application, you need to kind of integrate from where those comments are coming in, maybe from social media or the mobile app and so on. But this is just a very basic code to show you how easy it is to get those. And then what it has done is it has given the overall. So we broke it down to 2 sentences and gave the sentiment analysis, and the overall sentiment analysis is positive, right? So that calculation is also done. So that is a bit of an example on how we spoke about the sentiment analysis. And I can show you with the same endpoint and the same the key. I can look at how we can do entity extraction. So let me check that entity. Let me open up that entity extraction kind of code which I have. So in this code, I'm using the same key and the endpoint, but from the extraction perspective, what I'm doing is I want to extract from this sentence the main entities. As you can see, the results, we are using this recognize entity kind of method here. So in here, it's the same imports that we are done, and once we do the initial import of the Python library and the SDK, we can use the same endpoints. So here, if you run this, if I run this file, you can see how it's extracting the entities of this sentence, right? I had a wonderful trip to Seattle last week. As you can see, it has extracted different kind of entities, right? As you can see, the location, right? Because I'm talking about a location. So as I mentioned, these are entity extraction is about domain specific, and then the date and time, because I'm talking about last week. So why these are important is, for example, when you're trying to, when you're looking at large unstructured data like content sentences or comments or chat emails or whatever, if you want to kind of understand insights, you need to use this kind of techniques like entity, intents, and utterances to bundle up this conversation. So you might have seen when dashboards like word clouds and entity kind of dashboards and all of this. If you want to understand specifically when it comes to natural language processing, if you want to understand insights and basically take certain decisions, and if you want to do dashboards and all, you can use this, right? So this is how easy it is to kind of use these services and get insight. So this is all from cognitive, right? We are not doing any training or modeling on our own. We are using the existing services out there, right? So then when it comes to some of the use cases, as I mentioned now, when it comes to developing conversational digital assistants, specifically from Microsoft side, you're going to use most of these services. You're going to use entity extraction. You're going to use Q&A maker, Lewis, to develop your bots along with the Microsoft bot framework and the channel connectors. When it comes to there are some of the other capabilities also. Now, sometimes we might use even language translation In language translation also, it's a pre-trained model. For example, if a customer is answering in French and you want to translate that to English and understand what the customer is saying or the user is saying, you can use those pre-trained models. And the part which I mentioned about sentiment analysis, we see this a lot when we are looking at, understanding the customer experience, NPS scores, CSAT scores, because particularly nowadays brands are all on digital, right? They're on digital social networks and all the digital channels on chat and so on. So when a brand goes on digital, it's not like those days, right, where you have people talking about your brand, like, spreading the experience with word of mouth, right? It's all on digital. So when you have so much of digital unstructured data, how do you understand your brand's perspective, understand the NPS CSAT? So you can use this kind of sentiment analysis models to do that. Right. So then we're talking about vision recognition. So this is another cognitive service. Some of these areas are pre-trained, for example, like face API and computer vision is all pre-trained. And we'll talk about the custom vision recognition as well. So let me go to my cognitive services vision recognition. We'll talk about custom vision recognition a bit later. So if you go to face API, there are a lot of services out here. To talk about, a lot of kind of services that you can use to build solutions. Now, for example, face verification. So this service we can use a lot, right? When you want to verify customers remotely for onboarding, right? And this use case has been highly used in banking and finance for remote verification for eKYC, where the customer doesn't actually go to the physical location of the bank or the store, but he kind of onboards himself remotely by uploading information about himself, identification documents like NIC, driving license, and so on. So when you're doing this, we can use these kind of models to verify you remotely. And as you can see, in this instance, it says that the person is same. But if I try to maybe upload, let me see another picture and try to submit it. Let's see. Let's try another picture probably. Yeah, okay. Format is different. Let's try this. Yeah, as you can see, it says the person's face. The two faces belong to different people with the confidence score. So this is, I just want to show you from UI level, but you can do the same thing by kind of using the APIs in your preferred language. And when you're developing the architecture, there are different methods. Like, for example, you can kind of upload the images as a stream, or you can fetch the location from a local kind of blob. A blob storage or a local repository. So different kind of ways you can fetch the image and pass it onto the API and get that insight. And also, if you go to some of these, so this face API is all around face verification. Face detection. Face detection is actually you're detecting whether there is a face in image. So this has been highly used, for example, like for security use cases when they want to understand whether there is a person in your office location. And most of the modern security, cameras and all of this has this, but then they are not using actually this kind of cloud services. They are mostly using edge computing, where the face recognition model is already written into the hardware. So this kind of, because the most important thing is these are all running on cloud, right? And you need to understand what the use case. For example, if you're using banking and finance, there's a lot of regulation where you can't actually use cloud. But if you look at some of the Microsoft certifications and the data privacy facts, they mention that they don't actually store the image, right? They don't store it. If you go here, if you can see, does face store images that I send to the service know your images? So, and you can read this out. There are different kind of ways you can handle this as well. So this is on face. And if you go to, let's say, computer vision, it's all about object detection, OCR capabilities, and so on. So for example, if you give an image, it can say what are the objects. There's a person there, there's a chair there, and these kind of also OCR capabilities. So different use cases. And when it comes to this computer vision, also this is highly being used, for example, like mobile apps. And I have seen a lot of use cases when it comes to people with accessibility issues. For example, a person who is blind and who wants to kind of understand what is out there in the environment, or if he wants to understand, maybe let's say if he goes to a restaurant, he wants to understand what's in the menu, we can simply take a picture and it will describe for you. So different type of use cases you can use this. Here is actually what they're showing is a retail insight. How it's called as kind of a smart store. So your CCTV cameras in a retail store will identify where the customers are mostly heading to, whether it's a particular offer that they're looking at, or particular store, it's particular product. So according to that, they can reposition the products and the offers and so on, and identify those hotspots. So various kind of use cases we can do, but again, you need to understand whether you're going to use these cloud cognitive services, because from a pricing standpoint, these are being priced according to the number of API calls, right? Because if you are looking like live video streaming, and your cost is going to increase a lot. So in those kind of use cases, it's better to use edge computing. And there are various kind of computer vision models on edge, like spatial AI and so on, which is mostly written on OpenCV and Python. We can talk about that on a separate day, but this is mostly on the cognitive services which are running on cloud, and you can consume them through REST APIs. Then on custom vision recognition, this is an interesting part. Custom vision recognition is like when you want to quickly kind of classify your own data, you can use a kind of a portal like Language Understanding Studio. We can quickly log into a portal and upload your images, and through just button clicks, or we can call it low code, no code, you can classify the images and train it, and post it to a REST API that can be consumed. So making life easy for image classification, object detection in your own images, right? If you want, for example, these kind of things we can use for IoT kind of sense. IoT projects, right? So for example, I will tell you a use case where I have seen where in a manufacturing plant, in an apparel manufacturer. This use case is much better in a porcelain manufacturing factory. So the use case was that they have people manually looking at damaged porcelain goods, and they had to manually look at it, right? And it's very time consuming, and the number of resources they need is very high. So using this kind of model, we can actually train the model with the damage. Let's say if it's a flask or a cup, we can send a few images, couple of images, not just 10 or 20, but you need to have considerable amount of images. More the images, the more the accuracy. And when you upload it into this, and there are different type of industry standard damages, right? It's not the damages that we see, but even chips that can happen on the product, and even design faults and so on. So we can train it, and then we can deploy it on cloud or on edge, and then the camera will automatically identify those damages and maybe stop the production or notify a manager, whatever. So these kind of use cases we can do. So I'll show you a small use case which we had done on custom vision recognition. I think I showed you this in a previous demo as well, but anyway, we'll see what we can do. So you can actually deploy this service on Azure. And if you go to the API keys, they will show you the API keys similarly. And you also can go to custom the vision portal. Here is actually where we train everything. So you have to actually create that service first and then log into this. Otherwise, you won't have access to this. You have to actually log in with your credentials, which you have logged into your Azure portal and according to that tenant. So this is actually a small use case. I think if I'm not mistaken, I showed you this before, but I'll show you this again. So I actually uploaded a couple of images and trained it in a way to understand where the Apple logo is. So I just took a few images, and if I had trained this, right, and it's very easy, right? You just had to draw the location where the Apple logo is and you train it, right? And once you train it, it'll get trained. So it's making life easy, even for a person who doesn't know much about, object detection and classification. We can actually, quickly build a object detection or an image classification model with this service. It's called custom vision recognition. So this is training. Let's see whether. Okay. Let's see. Let's go to an image which is online. You guys can see my browser, right? I'm talking here. Can someone?
Yes, sir, you can see.
Right. Okay. Okay, let me take some kind of image. These of course will very easily identify because the logo is just out there. Let's take something like this. See with this train. Oh, it's training. Let's see whether I can do something here. Yeah, as you can see, it identifies the location, the probability, and so on. So what you can do is actually you can once you publish this, you can actually see where the endpoint is. And you can see where actually the REST APIs are. As I mentioned, the endpoints are here now, right, in the portal. So some changes have been done. So that is an object kind of which we call object detection. So when you're creating, actually, you can create classification. So for example, I create this classification to identify whether this is a Tesla or a Ferrari kind of scenario. But I need to tell you that these kind of methods are not good. This custom vision recognition model won't be good if you want to, do medical kind of classifications. For example, if you are trying to understand whether this is, for example, in a patient, if you want to understand whether this is whether the patient's having cancer or in an X-ray or those kind of complex things, this is not good. This is good for kind of basic, middle level complexity kind of projects, right? Not for medical kind of things. So it's important to understand what use case you are having, and if you are having loads and loads of data, this won't be good. It's better you develop something on your own. But generic standard applications, mobile apps, and applications where you need to infuse this kind of capabilities, this is brilliant, right? It minimizes the time. So the idea of cognitive capabilities is to give that developer, software engineer, a full stack developer, who does machine data science to quickly develop applications with AI capability. That's the idea of this, right? Right. Yeah. So I'm not going to talk about much on these industry cases. This is actually something that I spoke about previously, and so I'll just skip this for now. This is what I spoke about, the surveillance where we can use for security surveillance and so on. This is actually for entertainment also. I think I spoke about this, if I'm not mistaken, about how production companies, before they launch the movie, they actually get a sample set of audience and they play they play different parts of the movie and they say their reactions. So here they're looking at the reactions of the facial expression, like the emotions, excitement, and so on. And as you can see, object detection has been widely used, but these are very sophisticated models. I mean, which are being developed, and proprietary models, like you can't do object detection for autonomous vehicles using cognitive services, no, but those are specific models. But these kind of things for OCR extraction, these kind of things can be done. For example, when a customer is kind of uploading, let's say, a driving license to extract that information automatically to these fields, those kind of things you can do very easily. Right. So I'm quickly going through all of this so that we can quickly go through this. How much of time do we have? Like 1 hour, right? Or 45 minutes?
Yeah, right.
Okay. Then we'll get into speech recognition. Right. We go through speech. Let me just close these. Right, cognitive services. Yeah, so speech is also another service that we can use. So under speech service, there are different type of things. Speech to text, which we use when you have seen speech to text, right? This is not something new, and not something new even in your mobile phones like Google Assistant, search, all of this, they use speech to text. And these are all neural networks. And text to speech, right? And speech translation is when you want to translate from one language to another through speech. And speech recognition is mostly, it's kind of to recognize a voice of a particular person, maybe a customer, and so on. So I have, so recently, if you know, like Microsoft released text to speech and speech to text on Sinhala as well. So that is something interesting. And again, when you want to use these models, you can actually create the service, and when you create the service, you get all of these services in the same endpoint and the keys, and you can customize what exact functionality you're using from your code, right? So if you go to the keys, you have the endpoints again similarly. So let's try to see an example. Let me see here. Speech. Right. So I have, let's start with speech to text, right? Yeah, that's better. I'll close these other ones. It's even cluttered here. Yeah, in speech to text. So as you can see here, we give the key, but here we actually give the region. We need to give the region of where the service has been consumed, which is Southeast Asia, right? And there is a bunch of things that we need to do here, even in speech. So for example, let me see, text to speech. Yeah, let me see, I open this up. Let's take speech to text, quick start. Right here, what we need to do is we need to install the SDK for Python. Since I'm using Python, we need to install. But if you're using any other language, it can be JavaScript, whatever, you will need to kind of install those libraries as well. So what you need to do is first install this library. I think I have already done it. Let me see. Seems I think I have already done it. And there's a bunch of features here you need to do. So there's a couple of things here, and I'll explain it from here. So first, what we need to do is, so in this instance, actually, I'm going to use the laptop microphone to kind of simulate this. And so what we are doing here is, as you can see here, I'm using the language English Great Britain. Let me show you the type of languages that we support here. Yes, let's see whether we can get the type of languages. There was a list, just give me a second. Let me find that link. Try to get that link. Right, so these are all neural, right? So, so there are two different differentiations from traditional TTS, because those were not using neural in neural voices, and specifically when it comes to neural speech to text and text to speech, the accuracy is much kind of higher. So if you look at we'll check. This is actually text to speech, right? So we'll look at speech to text, pre-built voices, speech services. What I want to show is actually the list of languages. So as you can see, don't really get it from here. That's easy. So the different type of languages that they support. So what you need to use actually when you want to kind of use this in speech to text or text to speech, you actually can use the type of local. So as you can see, Bahrain, Libya, all the type of languages. And if you search for Sinhala, actually Sinhala is here, right? So initially, let's try out English and see in our speech to text scenario. Right. Today, we are talking about Microsoft Azure Cognitive Services. As you can see, it recognized it. Since I'm talking in English, it recognizes it. Let's try to see whether we can use some Sinhala. Yeah. I think it should be this. We had to we had to change this speech configuration, speech recognition, language type here. That is the important thing we need to do when you're consuming these services. Let's run this again. Okay, what shall I say? Singular. Hold on, my Singular is not that great as well. I'll just say good morning in Singular, right? To make it a bit fun. ඔබලා සියලු දෙනාටම සුබ උදෑසනක්. Right. It actually kind of Unicode here is not that. I think there's an issue with the Unicode, but it actually understood, right? ඔබලා සියලු දෙනාටම. So it's quite accurate because it's using neural. So speech to text is a great way to use services in your application, in your mobile apps and your applications to make the kind of customer experience easy for users, right? This has been used actually widely in accessibility standards like WCAG and all of this. So I don't know if you know that in accessibility, developing mobile apps and web applications, there are accessibility standards, right? This is very important so that we infuse inclusivity of your application. We don't keep anyone behind. This is one of the main mottos of Microsoft as well. So when you're developing this, like for people who have differently able people, maybe people who are blind, you can use this standards, and in WCAG there are AA, AAA, and in AAA. Particularly in the AAA standard, you have this kind of text-to-speech text capabilities where people can't actually type, right? But they can speak to the application and make it. So these are, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like these are the kind of use cases that you need to understand where you're using AI, not just to use for the fanciness of it. Let's try to see whether we can do So this is speech to text, and let's see text to speech. So to do that, I think I'll have to reshare this again because I need to share the audio with you. Right. Okay, I'm giving audio access. So let's see whether that one is text to speech. No. Sorry, wrong file. That I open. Right. Okay, sorry. I think it was made it in a different thing. Okay, first I will use the English one, right? Let's use the English one and see how it sounds like. Okay, let's use something. Hong Kong, Nigerian, United Kingdom. Okay. Right. So here also another thing, this is also written on Python. So again, you need to import the SDK, speech SDK, and you need to give the subscription key and the region. And I'll just change this to this. And let me, so you are giving the type and you're giving the type of the, whether it's a female and the type of voice that will come in. Let's use this. Right. This isn't single, I had to change this to English. So let's type something. Hi, today we are learning about Microsoft Cognitive Services. Spelling sorry neither. Okay. Let's run this and see.
Hi, today we are learning about Microsoft Cognitive Services.
Did you all hear that? Oh.
Yeah, yes.
Okay, I think I misspelled cognitive here, right? We'll try a singular one also and see, because this is actually something recently they launched it. Let's see how good single is. So we have the female voice and the male voice. Since it's Women's Day recently, we'll go with the female, no? Right. Has someone just copy paste maybe some singular Unicode, some sentence here, if you don't mind, on the chat. Just a sentence. Someone can help me with that.
Yeah, sure. So give me few.
Yeah, sure. By the way, if anyone has any questions, you can ask them as well. Anything?
Looks
Yeah,
like
so
there are no
there are
questions for now,
yeah.
sir.
I think Microsoft Cognitive Services is free, and there's another question regarding, can we use these techniques for build human face emotion tracking system? I think he's asking about like computer vision.
Yeah, these are not actually free, unfortunately, but I mean, as I mentioned, these the model goes according to pay as you go. These aren't a pass, no, these platform as a service. And thank you for that. So basically, it's not free, right? But as a student, if you want to try it out, you can. They have a 30 day trial period. I think they give about 150 of credits, right? So if you want to try it out, you can create a free account, but you need to provide your credit card. Your credit card won't be billed, it's just for their identification, and you get a 30-day trial. I mean, you can try it out free, but if you're using it in production, definitely they will bill you according to the number of API calls, and that's why it's very important when you're building this, before you start using this, you need to do a sizing, right? Because you are just using this service, but if your cost goes high only on this, I mean, that's going to kind of have a massive impact on your entire solution. So you need to understand where you're going to use it, and what is the use case. Okay, let's try this out. Okay, let's see. Yeah, so I hope you guys heard that. So likewise, there are different languages here. You can try it out. I mean, these are pretty cool because we can localize our applications, right, to support our local language and so on. So that's really great that they launched this, and it was something that I was also looking forward, for some time. Right. Then I will share my slides again. Right. Okay. So I'll try to quickly wrap up. So yeah, I will try to quickly wrap this up. On OpenAI, so this is something actually they started recently. I don't know whether any of you have heard about Open. So OpenAI is completely NLP state-of-the-art model. They have it's actually, the model is called GPT-3, and it's quite a very comprehensive model which has been trained on so many billions of data and parameters. If you see, so under OpenAI, there are a couple of services like GPT-3 Codex and Content Filter. So Codex, so GPT-3 is for NLP. So under this, you have entity extraction, translation, creation, language creation, some really fascinating use cases I'll show you. And Codex is mostly for coding. So if any of you recently saw, GitHub, GitHub's Copilot, we call it AI pair programming, where you can just give a couple of you can type naturally and the code will write itself. I mean, even though I say this, that the code will write itself, I mean, if for a non-programmer who doesn't know basic programming, it's not easy, but it will help you kind of speed up your programming. So that was developed on Codex and Content Filter. So these are some of the models here, and I think Microsoft has also used some of these OpenAI services on Azure. But I want to take you to some of the demos here. I'm not going to talk about some of this. Let's straight away go to the website with the time we have. So here, if you go to OpenAI services, right, you can go to OpenAI services and they give you actually free credits as well. And there are quite a lot of examples here. For example, like keyword extraction, summarizing of text, grammar correction, and so on. But these are not like traditional kind of NLP models, because there is really extensive features which I can explain here. I'm trying to find this example. Let's see. Right. Let's see. Yeah, this one. So you can actually here also you can use the Python code, but they have given a kind of a web playground here that you can experience on your own. So as you can see here, this says create an outline for an essay about Walt Disney, right? That is the only thing that you need to pass through this model, and it will actually create the entire outline for you, right? So you can say anything. Let's try something else. Create an outline. Create an outline for an essay for, let's say, machine learning, maybe. Okay. Completion that begins with stop sequence. I'm not sure what happened there. Let's see again. What was the issue? Maybe the way I'm passing it was wrong. Let's see. Right. Oh. Let's see. Machine. As you can see, like it creates this, right? I mean, this is something that the model is creating on its own. This goes to the concepts of GANs, right? General adversarial networks. It's quite fascinating out there. Like, it's not just entity interaction or sentiment analysis. It's actually creating on its own. And I mean, there are multiple use cases that we can use this for. And I want to show you when we're calling these APIs, it's quite different than other API, how we call other APIs. Let me just see whether I have those examples to show you. I think I had them under Open API demos or something. Yeah, let's see. Yeah, NLP test. I think this was the one. Yeah. So here also in OpenAI, we have the key. I mean, like Microsoft Cognitive Services, we have the key. And in this, it's different, right? Actually, you are telling the API in natural language what you want to do. So here it says extract keywords from this, right? So here we are extracting key entities. And if I want to do some other tasks, for example, let's say, maybe let's say English to other language, right? Translate this to. Let's try this to see. So you're calling the API with natural language, right? So that's the beauty about this. Let's see. Let's see. Right, so it translated, right? So I said to translate that sentence. What room do you have available into French? So it has translated into French, as you can see here. So that's how easy it is to use this kind of open AI service. And under Microsoft also, they have the open AI service here, Cognitive Open AI. But in this scenario, actually what they have used it is for a different kind of thing. So so OpenAI is actually a different, it's a different company, right? Actually, Elon Musk is one of the founders, if I'm not mistaken, and it's on natural language. So Microsoft is partnered with them to kind of facilitate it on Azure Cloud, and there are multiple use cases. And as you can see, like, GPT-3 is one thing that we are using for summarization. I think some of the customers have used this, like in for example, like sports streaming to summarize maybe the comments and all of that, different type of use cases. But what I'm trying to show these are all pre-trained models, and you can simply use them in your code. So I think that's about it. But I think on a different day we can cover. We actually covered most of the Microsoft Cognitive Services language. This on a different day we can cover the Microsoft ML services. That is mostly into ML services which which consolidate many services under this. So like what Microsoft is doing is like previously in language understanding services, you had different services, working individually, but what they've done was they are consolidate all of this into one studio, and the same they have done to ML, which makes sense, right? Consolidates all under one portal, and you can quickly kind of configure them with low-code, no-code services. Low-code, no-code kind of features. And under here also you have, drag and drop ML Studio, like the classic ML Studio before. You have the drag and drop capabilities, and you have auto ML ops. All of this in one kind of umbrella. So probably we can take that on a different day. So hope I hear some kind of insights with whatever knowledge I have, and I hope this was useful. And if there are any questions, I can take them. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, sir. That was a really insightful and informative session. We all learned a lot about Microsoft AI services.